Final story, Colin. Let's go to the matchup Sunday on Fox here at SoFi. What a week for sports in L.A. Stafford versus Goff. Are you excited? Remember the big trade, obviously, back in the day? Both teams have benefited. I know the Rams have a Super Bowl, the Lions don't, but this is crazy. We've got a breakdown of the numbers. We'll show you in a minute of the teams from this trade. Here's Stafford talking about how it was win-win for both franchises.
I'm happy to be where I am, and I feel like the Lions obviously have capitalized on a lot of the picks and players that they were able to acquire in that trade. Their franchise is as good as it's been ever, in the last handful of years. So two, successful teams, really good football coaches, good football, programs at the moment. And, it looks like one that, both sides got kind of what they were looking for out of it. I think as time goes on, we'll keep looking back on it saying the same thing because, it seems to work out for both teams.
It's one of the great even trades ever.
Here are the numbers on the screen. That's legitimately crazy.
Now,
and
remember,
it's almost identical stats.
Well, what McVay wanted was a bigger arm. Mm-hmm. He thought Stafford had a bigger arm, was better pre-snap.
Stafford's a better quarterback. Right. Goff is very good.
What the Lions needed was draft capital while maintaining competency at quarterback. But they needed, and to the Lions' credit, they hit on all those draft picks. Yeah. I mean, they went you look at those draft picks, they kept using and manipulating, and they got Brad Holmes, a great GM. So that is one of those trades where, they wanted a quarterback moving into his athletic prime and draft picks, a notch below Stafford. But McVay was like, okay, I got to a Super Bowl. I don't know if I can win one with Goff. And he was right. Stafford is more elegant, more Tiffany as a product.
Any lean on this game besides I think the total was like 55. There's going to be
I've
points.
told you before, when the number's 4 or 5, take the favorite.
Yeah.
That's, to me, anytime somewhere between 4 and 5.5.
I mean, if you look at the injuries in the secondary for Detroit.
Branch is out now for the year.
Yeah, that's devastating because he's a real good chess piece on the back end. I don't know how they slow down Puka and Adams and the 3 tight ends. I think the Rams, I don't know what their team total is. They're going to score 40 here with ease. Maybe Detroit gets a backdoor cover.
Detroit has extra prep time.
They do. Maybe they get the backdoor cover. I don't totally. Now, then, to be clear, the Rams secondary, they were cooked by Bryce Young. Who's the kid from Washington, the skinny guy?
Mariota, Jaden Daniels.
No, the cornerback. He had a good season, and then he's starting to get roasted all of a sudden. I have some questions about the Rams secondary, but I do like the Rams here to dispatch the Lions.
By the way, Fox has this game, and Tom Brady, who is on our show tomorrow, will be calling it. So
yeah, Tom talking about QB. I can't believe they're still trying to milk the whole trade story, like interviewing Stafford right now. And I don't mean Colin, and I mean like on radio and just the conversations in general. The trade happened. It was years ago. It's over. It's done. Doesn't have to be the constant conversation around these two teams forever. Yeah. It's a shame. I wish the Lions were healthier right now. I wish we could feel like these are two battle-tested teams going up against each other right now. I mean, listen, the Lions are still playing for a lot. Obviously, you're going to feel more comfortable and confident in the Rams. It's just, I wish this game felt a little bit more equal footing right now. And in years past, that's where the Lions were. But they're just not right now. From a coaching perspective, a roster perspective, an injury and health perspective, their offense can still get after it. And so that'll be interesting to see what their offense does against this Rams defense. But yeah, I don't know how much juice the Lions defense now has left in them going up against an elite offense from the Rams. So it's a tough one. I'm definitely watching this through pretty loose eyes, meaning like I don't trying, like I have an idea of where I think the game will go, but I'm trying not to actually really drill down on that too much and really just trying to be like, well, we'll see. Let's just see what happens. And not really be like, well, this is kind of what I believe. Like I'm just kind of like, you know what? I'm anytime I kind of have a thought or an idea of how I think it will unfold, I'm just kind of like, let me just let go of that and like let me just see. Let me just see. I do think from a Lions perspective, this game really means a ton because you're in a position right now to prove, like, are you a contender or not? Can you get after it or not? Or if you make the playoffs, are you a legitimate threat, a legitimate contender? Or is it just kind of like, yeah, you took a pretty big step back from what you were in years past, whether because of coaching, injuries, whatever. It's just how it happened, right? It's how it's unfolded. You win, you play big, you make people feel like this is what they looked like over these last couple of years, then that is just a massive boost, a massive step in the right direction. And you're like, hey man, Lions are just as dangerous as any other team out there. The Rams don't need that proof. They already got their bounce back game against clearly a bad opponent. And I don't think there's any like extra juice here from the perspective of like, playoffs revenge and Stafford and Goff and the trade. That's why I'm saying, like, looking at this, I'm like, who cares right now? Like, it is interesting, and you can look at their things, but they're like, it's really equal, and it's like, yeah, but like all that stuff is, considering how both, seasons have unfolded for both individual teams. The coaching, Stafford has had Al McVay the entire time. Goff only had Ben Johnson for a shorter window. Stafford has had a longer stretch with lesser offensive weapons. Now he has now he's, flushed with it, right? Like, so it's just, doesn't really matter to me, honestly. Because, right, you could say, like, oh, Go's been better, 68%, and, has more wins and less losses and higher passer rating and, beat him in the playoffs. And it's like, you did. But then also the Lions the Rams won the Super Bowl, and it's like, but they had Kupp and OBJ and Von Miller and Aaron Donald, right? So it's just like, I don't know, man. I just hope this game could be competitive. I guess like what it gets boiled down to is I'm confident that the Rams will be competitive and the Rams will be complete and the Rams will be in a position to bring it and play their best football. The Lions, again, specifically defensively, that's where I question. And now, since I believe that this defense is also incredibly well coached, I have my question marks about the play calling for the offense going up against well-coached high-level defenses. It's just a different rhythm to the play calling and game planning when you're going up against a formidable foe in that regard. That I think the play calling, and depending on if it's Dan Campbell or the offensive coordinator there, who knows? In this exact given moment, I believe it's back. Dan Campbell's just taken over, and that's the way it goes. And maybe he really has found something, and so that's why even using their past is a little tricky, because you have different play callers throughout the course of the season, right? And now our most recent example was against the Dallas Cowboys, and they played a lead against the Dallas Cowboys, no doubt about it. But it's like the Cowboys are still the Cowboys, so it's just a tricky situation. So that's why it's just harder to have the same level of confidence in the Lions in this immediate moment than I do with the Los Angeles Rams. And you can see they're favored by 5.5, which is a pretty sizable chunk. That's no small margin. So clearly there's way more confidence in the Rams, and that's why it's really up to the Lions to prove like we did figure something out. Yeah, we're banged up. Yeah, our defense keeps getting injured, but Ross St. Brown is now healthier. He's got some extra time to rest up. He was still able to play fantastically. Dan Campbell did take over play calling. This offense is different now than what we had before. You can trust him to call great plays and great game management and game planning going against another great defense, et cetera, et cetera. Like, it's up to them to prove that. It's up to them to prove that, and it's up to the Los Angeles Rams to be like no. Right? Like, again, like, yeah, you could be the Dallas Cowboys and whatnot. Like, congrats, but like you're not beating us. And this is the most low. This and the Seahawks are the two most lowball games for the Rams. They're really the final stands of getting in their way of solidifying that home field advantage. And I'll go on the record and say that I think the Rams need the the home field advantage and the bye more than any other team and more than any other quarterback specifically, just because of Stafford's age, making sure he doesn't have to play an extra game, home field advantage, no traveling, and no having to play in tough weather, in anything that is bad weather. Because the big problem too is if the Rams, and again, I'm not predicting any of this, zero predictions of how it'll exactly unfold, but like if the Rams lose this game, then they lose to Seattle, which is technically possible. It's not like we're not talking about you're losing to the Cleveland Browns, then losing to the Raiders here. Like, these are two legit teams. It's definitely on the table. But even if you just lose one of them, specifically to the Seahawks, and now it's like the Seahawks are in a position to win the division, right? Even if you don't get the 1 seed and that it kind of slips away, you now are still in a position where now maybe you drop down to the 5 seed and now you're definitely on the road. Like, it's one thing if you can, maybe you don't get the 1 seed, and I think pretty much the way how it would unfold, I'm not sure if the Rams could find themselves, probably they could probably find themselves like in the 2 seed and win the division and drop down to the 2 seed. But I guess like it feels more likely that they're either the 1 seed, and if they lose the 1 seed, a big reason of that is going to be because of like the Seattle Seahawks. And if that's the case, then there's a potential for them to now drop to like the 5 seed. And I guess maybe technically, depending on what some of these other teams are doing, the 6 seed or 7 seed. And again, none of my actual predictions, it's just the way how the math is shaping up is just absolutely insane. And you just don't want that for Stafford. You don't want him in a cold, snowy game. You don't want them on the road against Green Bay. You don't want those things. I mean, I think if you're on the road and you're playing a team like a Detroit or something, like I'm significantly less concerned, but I do think the elements, the weather, the coldness of it all, the extra game is the one thing, I think I've said this before, is the one thing that could hamper this team, that could hamper their ability to get out there and win a Super Bowl. It's just something that I think we've seen with Stafford now over these last couple of years, late in the season, cold weather, rainy, snowy, whatever it is. And it's not like he can't handle the elements. It's just, he's just not in his prime, and it's just harder for older quarterbacks. We the one game against the 49ers when it was like kind of like cold and windy, whatever. I mean, like, he was awful. That was that game that was like, for what it was, a bizarre score, like 12-6 or something, like he was not good. And even this season, against when it was like a snowy, rainy, wintry mix, whatever the heck it was, with Carolina, it was just like, like that was not good. I don't think he played bad in Philly, in that little, snow game. But it wasn't great either. It wasn't like what we're seeing right now either. And so I do think finding a way to protect home field advantage, the number 1 seed, and taking care of that goes an incredibly long way. And just the sheer fact that you're asking your quarterback who's playing great, but there's plenty of miles on his body, adding an extra game, getting that 3rd game, again, it just adds up. Right? It just adds up. So this game, and obviously the Seahawks are two, from my perspective, the 2 most likely games that they could lose. Not saying they're going to lose, but out of all the other games that they're playing, this is clearly up, and this is the first one. So, be interesting to see how it unfolds, but those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think with the Los Angeles Rams taking on the Detroit Lions? What do you think about still talking about the trade and whatnot? It's like 5 years ago. How do you feel about just the Rams taking on the Lions in general? Do you give the Lions a chance, or do you think the Rams will, like Jack said, hang 40-plus points, make it easy? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.